Hi everyone, my name is Ryan and I'm going to talk about micro interactions today. So I'm going to start with what micro interaction is and how it can help the UX. Also, I'm going to talk about the principles and the workflow of micro interactions. And then I'm going to show you some coding examples of the button with the micro interactions showing different state like error or successful depending on the feedback received from the server. So it's going to be very fun, so let's get started. Right, so micro interactions are small moments where the user and design interact. So a good example is a little animation appearing when you click on the like or clap button on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Medium. Not only on the web, but we can find the micro interactions around us every single day offline. And one of the great examples is a handshake. So the history of handshake dates back to the 5th century BC in Greece. It was a symbol of peace, showing that neither person was carrying a weapon. And nowadays, the handshake is commonly done upon meeting, greeting, offering congratulations, expressing gratitude, or concluding an agreement. Its purpose is to convey trust, respect, balance, and equality. While handshake is still the most common greeting around the world, there is another form of commonly used gesture to give respect or approval. A fist bump. So the fist bump can be traced back to late 1800s when boxers would be instructed to touch gloves at the start of the contest. These days, the fist bump is commonly used and replacing the handshakes in many countries, especially among young people. However, if you use those two different gestures at the same time, even though they show the same meaning of expression, it can get awkward. So in micro-interaction world, it's the same, right? Even if two different micro-interactions contain the same feedback, using two different micro-interactions on the same page rather makes users get confused. So I'll talk more on that in the following slides. So let's see some examples of micro-interactions we can find on the web. So this is a great example on Medium. So by clicking on the clap button, you see the little confetti bursting out from the button and showing the counter of how many claps you have given. So with these micro-interactions, you are confident that you have given a certain number of claps to the specific article. This is another example of micro-interactions with the volume control. So this is subtle but meaningful animation is clearly showing the different volume status like as muted, normal, or really loud depending on which way you drag the volume bar to. This clever micro-interactions shows the credit card image as the background when you start to type your credit card information and fill up the credit card numbers, expiry date, CCV number, and your name. These micro-interactions ensures that you are filling up the information correctly and gives you an extra confidence that which credit card you are using, such as MasterCard, Visa, or American Express. And this is the micro-interactions I am going to show you how to build today. So when you click on the submit button, it shows you the loading status while receiving a response from a server. And once you receive the response from the server, you show either error or successful status. So these micro-interactions gives you the confirmation and confidence with the visual feedback, and by doing so, it definitely helps improve the UX. So we had a look at some examples of micro-interactions, but why do we need them? So there are many benefits with the micro-interactions, but today I'm going to talk about 4 main benefits micro-interactions offer. So let's talk about that. Firstly, visual feedback. So micro-interactions provides visual feedback based on the user's actions. So for example, when you click on the continue button but haven't filled up the required field, it gives you a little animation which grabs the user's attention and indicates that this specific field needs to be filled in to go to the next step. Secondly, confidence. So micro-interactions gives us a confidence while we perform some certain actions. So for example, on the e-commerce site, when we change the size and then the color of the shoes, we can see the shoe gets updated with the size and color we selected. So these micro interactions gives us more confidence with the shoe's detail we chose when we added this item to the cart. And thirdly, confirmation. So with the micro interactions, we can confirm the results based on our actions. So for example, when we click on the submit button, we get a confirmation of either if the form has been submitted or not. And lastly but not least, micro interactions offer us a feeling of delight and fun. So unlike any other login form, this form provides an animation which follows where you type, and when you focus on the password, that guy covers his eyes with his hand, which is pretty fun to watch. So this gives you so much fun and improves the normal, boring login experience to be more delightful and fun. So we talked about the benefits of having micro interactions. So now let's talk about the principles of micro interactions. So there are 4 principles we should consider when we design the micro interactions. So firstly, consistent. So those 3 send buttons all provide the same sort of successful feedback, which gives us a confirmation that the email has been successfully sent. However, even if all of the buttons provide the same feedback, if we have them all on the same page, it rather makes users confused and sometimes annoyed because of too many different design variations. It is also because of the animation is happening unexpectedly. So for example, when I click on the send button in the middle, I get a progress bar. However, if I click on the right hand side, I get a paper plane instead of the progress bar, which breaks the promise of providing progress bar. That leads to the second part of the principle for micro interactions. Predictable. So when we build micro interactions, we should make it very predictable. So from this example, when we click on one of the buttons, the animation provides a very predictable graphic. So for example, when I click on the contents only button, it really gives us the contents only graphic, excluding the building graphic. So the micro interactions should deliver what has promised to deliver, and it gives the users a better web experience while using web components. Micro interactions should be subtle too. So this example shows us a very subtle and little animation on navigation, but it certainly gives us the correct behaviors. For example, if we click on the pizza, the active purple circle will be moved to the menu we selected with a little bit of a GUI effect, which provides a better user experience. And lastly, the micro interactions should also be transformative. So quite often the micro interactions consist of several steps of different animations, and the animations should be smoothly connected. So from this example, each section is smoothly transformed, so we feel we are still working on the same subject and we don't feel disconnected on each different section. So we talked about the principles of micro interactions when we design it. So now let's talk about the workflow of micro interactions when we actually build it. So this workflow was introduced from this book, Micro Interactions, written by Dan Safer, and this workflow is commonly used when building micro interactions. So let's talk about that. So there are 4 elements in the workflow, and let's talk about each element. So the trigger is the event that starts the micro interactions. So it can be a manual trigger when a user interacts with a component, or a system trigger which automatically occurs when certain conditions are met. Once it's triggered, the micro interactions follow certain rules. So for example, what happens when you click on the button? After that, micro interactions should provide a feedback. So for example, your iPhone vibrates when it is switched to silent mode. And finally, what should happen after providing the feedback? So for example, when you finish a load of laundry, your washing machine will play a sound, and if you don't open washer door, it will repeat to remind you. Right, so this is the last part of the slides, and let's go over the button I'm going to show you today and define the workflow together. So it will be a manual trigger, so when we click on the button, the micro interaction will be triggered. And there are some rules to follow, so when we click on the button, we will send a request to a server and gonna receive a response from the server. Depending on the response, we will either display the error or successful status in the button. With that rule, we will provide a visual feedback. So when the response is an error status, we will change the button color to red, then update the button text to like error submit again. If we receive a successful status from the server, we will change the button color to green and update the text to successful. Once we receive the feedback, we have two different modes. So when the button is in error status, we can resubmit the form. However, if the button is in the successful status, we will no longer be able to interact with the button. That means we won't be able to resubmit the form. Alright, so we talked about the micro interactions. And now, let me show you how I built the button we just talked about. So I have used four libraries, so React, to create the React button component, and style the component to add styles to the React component. And then also GSAP stands for Green Side Animation Platform to create the animation. There are some other, a lot of other animation libraries available out there. And there are also like libraries especially designed for React, like React Motion or React Spring. But personally, I like Green Side Animation because it gives a lot of possibilities of creating animations. That's why I use the GSAP. And then I use the Axios for communicating with the server. You can use Fetch API if you want, but I just personally prefer to use Axios to communicate with the server. So let me get out of this slide. All right, so I have run this exact same presentation last week, and it was actually a workshop. And I actually showed audience to create these micro interactions with the button like from scratch, and it took me like 1 hour. So today I only have like 10 minutes now, so I cannot actually show you every single line of code, but I'll try my best to explain what I have done here. So as I just mentioned, I used those four libraries, so React, and I used the user ref hook, and then also I included the style component here. And Green Side Animation comes with a lot of tools, and actually 4 tools, and I use the timeline light because later I'm going to show you down here that some animations needs to be chained. So to chain the animation, I had to use a timeline light, and then this is just the easing power, and then I imported Axios here as well. So from here to here, this is just to create the style component. So if you have never used the style component, it's actually to add styles to React component. So for example, this is style app. We have these CSS styles. And if we scroll down here, I haven't used that style app here. So normally what you would do is, actually this is a class name, something like that. And then you're gonna add some styles to this specific class, right? But with the style component, you can do something like this and then define the styles here. If you use a VS Code, and I'm pretty sure other IDE is going to do the same thing, but if you hover on this specific style component, it's going to show what kind of element you are actually creating with the style component. So here I called this style factory and attached this div element. So that's how you create this specific element and then apply the styles. So that's pretty much the same for other elements as well. And I'm gonna go down here. So I created this button component. It's pretty simple, React component, functional component. And then I'm gonna start with this rendering, this return here. So this is the button, as you can see here. So we have this button component, and then I have added a spinner inside as well, and I have text inside as well. So if we look at this button, and there are two spans, and as you can see, there is actually a spinner. So what is actually happening is I have hidden this spinner. So actually the spinner is already there. And what is really happening is I have a screencast, this one. So when we click on the button, we're gonna make the background color transparent, and we're gonna make this shape of the button to a circle, and then we are going to show the spinner, right? This is the first part of the animation. And then while we see this spinner, we are going to communicate with the server. And then we're gonna receive either error or successful. If we receive an error, I'm gonna change this color to red, and then coming back the animation. So I'm gonna hide the spinner, change the shape from circle to button, and then I'm gonna show the text with the error message, and then I'm gonna show the background color. If it's successful, exactly the same animation, but with the green color and different successful message. So how can we change this button shape to more like this circle? It looks like a rocket science, but actually it's really, really simple. So here, I'm just gonna add width 7-8 pixel. Here we go. This is how you create the button shape to a circle, which is pretty simple. So I'm gonna go back to the code. So here we are showing the button element with the spinner and text, and then I'm gonna scroll up here, and we are declaring some variables for use ref. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already know how to use React hook, but to access to the DOM element from React, you can actually store the DOM element to use ref. So in pure JavaScript, to access to the DOM, probably you're gonna do something like document query selector and probably class name, and change the style with like 7-8 pixel. Something like this. But in React, we should not do this way. I'm just gonna remove this. And you can store the DOM element value in button, and then you can access to the specific DOM element with the button .current, something like that. So you have to specify this button down here, like so with the ref. So that's how you can access to the DOM. Because now you can access to the DOM, now you can use green side animation. So this is the forward animation, so up to here. So that is starting from here up to here. So there are many animations are chained. So the micro iterations is all about finding the right moment to make a smooth animation. So that's why I have added some durations here and added some delay, and some animations are happening a little bit earlier. So I spent a bit of time to find these numbers here. But basically, if you click on the button, which I attached on click event here, we are referencing to this handle submit function up here. So when we click on the button, we're gonna reference to this function, and then this is just a simple local function. We're gonna skip this, and we're gonna start from this twin forward, and we're gonna do this animation, and then we're gonna communicate with the server using Axios here. So I used this http bin.org for today's practice. So this is simply you can test communicating with the server, and there is HTTP method and post here. So simply method post and just send my first name as a line. And then if we are receiving the response, I assume this is successful. If we are catching an error, I assume this is an error. Sometimes response might contain maybe error, but just for today's practice, let's assume if we get the response, we're gonna say this is successful. If we catch an error, this is an error. Because those two animations with the red and green are exactly the same except the color, right? So we can actually reuse that specific code. That's why I created another function, and I'm just sending this status, 1 for successful, 0 for an error. So this is the function. So I'm getting status, and then I straight away return this animation. So pretty much it's going backward. So we are hiding spinner, we are showing the border color, but depending on the status, we show green or red. And rest of them are pretty much the same. And also depending on the status, we are showing background color, green or red, And then also depending on the status, we show different error messages or successful message. So that is actually up to here. So trigger, we know trigger, right? So when we click on the button, we have some rules to follow, and then we have a feedback, either displaying red or green. Now, let's talk about this loop. So once this animation is all done, on error status, so on this one, we should be able to resubmit the form. So we should be able to click on this button again. But on this successful message, we don't want users to interact with this button, so we somehow have to disable this button. So my approach is, there might be another approach as well, but my approach is, so as soon as we click on the button, we actually don't need to interact with the button because we don't want to click again on this spinner. So what I did was, when I click on the button, I straight away disable this button. So that is for this part. So as soon as we click on the button, there's a onStart method in green's animation. I just disable the button. And when this is an error status, I removed that disabled attribute. So that is that part. So this is the forward animation, and there is the backward animation. And when we completed this animation, I just removed the disabled. If the status is successful, I just leave button as a disabled. So that's how I created that specific button with the micro interaction. So I'm gonna refresh this one. So when I click on this submit button, and it's gonna give me a error message because I am sending this specific data to wrong URL. So I'm gonna get rid of this one. I'm gonna save. Okay, there's an error. Let's see what is happening. So okay, so 147, probably I'm gonna type something wrong here. So spinner. I'm gonna save this. Then refresh a few more times. Just make sure there's no cache. There's an error. Let's check again. Right, so HTTP bin org probably I'll save this again. Okay, probably there might be a dev server issue, so let me restart the dev server. You know, when you do demo, it is always happening. So always, it worked pretty well when I practiced, but it will never work when I actually do the demo. So let me restart this server, and hopefully this time it works. But error is working okay, right? So 5 seconds more. Okay, here we go. So let me refresh a few more times, and then I submit. Error. So I am not sure because okay, so this is HTTP bin org post, and it's supposed to work, but I am not sure why it's not working. How many time do I have? Is it up? Is it all good? All right, so I want to fix this one. So actually, let me check if the URL is okay. Sorry? Yes. You're right, because I'm not on network, so we can never access to the server. So let me quickly use my iPhone. Actually, I can directly do here iPhone. Am I connected? I think so. All right. Oh, okay. I connected. Yeah. So let me try again. Sorry about that. It's a really silly mistake. Well, hopefully this time it works. Hello. Hello. Right. Oh. Okay. There's one thing I can mention now. So as you can see, the design is broken. That is not because of my code. That is because of the cache issue. So because you are accessing to the DOM, you have to make sure to hard refresh this browser. So let me try again. Here we go. Now it's successful. Sorry about this whole hurriness of showing this code. But if you have any questions, let me know after this presentation. We can talk anything about micro interactions and React as well. Last thing, my name is Ryan Yu, and I am Senior UI Engineer at Campaign Monitor, and I can be reached at Twitter at I am Ryan Yu. And then also I am the author of frontend30.com, where you can learn a lot of front-end technologies, and for example, like micro interactions, CSS animations, 3.js, and React as well. So if you want to scale up your front-end at 30, check out frontend30.com. Thank you. Anybody has any questions? Yes.
Yeah, the first screen that you showed, at the login screen, the small icon is looking at the typing location of your login name and password. Would you be able to say whether that is going to consume CPU time or graphic card time?
Okay, so the question was, so this one, right? So if we use the kind of animation, it's going to consume CPU or GPU memories. Is that correct?
I want to clarify, because in my past experience is that in my I still run very old Linux program.
Yeah.
My understanding is that a certain program must consume GPU time.
Yeah.
But when I actually analyze the CPU time or GPU time consumption ratio, it always consumes CPU time, and the GPU just runs idle.
Okay.
Yeah, so that convinces me it depends on the code rather than the nature of the program. So it depends on which code you're running. It may decide whether you will consume GPU time, CPU time, or graphic card time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. So if we create a animation, we also definitely care about the performance and then how much memories we're gonna consume, especially CPU or GPU. So this is all about like rendering those animations on the browser, and there are something like 60 FPS things we have to care about, and so there are some kind of techniques we can actually use, like GPU acceleration. So you should never use left or top position to move elements around. Instead, you have to use translate X to move around. So you can use the GPU instead of CPU. The problem with the CPU is it only works one by one, right? So if it's like myself, right? I cannot do reading a book, but at the same time watching movie, right? But GPU you kind of can do, right? So we have to use GPU somehow. With that, I'm not 100% sure what kind of technology he used, but if I have to create this animation, then definitely I'll care about that, and then also I'll think about what kind of CSS properties or libraries we're gonna use. So for libraries, for example, like GSAP, it actually takes care of that too. So it's not gonna just consume whatever your CPU memories, and then it's gonna they spend a lot of time to create the specific libraries, and then it actually creates quite nice like libraries. And I'm thinking about like best way to perform that animation. With the older system, yes, we have to think about that. But with the current technology, latest monitors, it's pretty much it's gonna work well. But again, we have to think about older system accessibility as well. When you think about this, how can we actually make sure it delivers right accessibility as well? So, would it that answer?
Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Yes.
If my clients they don't like animation, and how can we turn off this? We set the time to 0, or we just feature flag doesn't run anything.
So just to clarify, so your client doesn't like animation,
Yeah.
but you'd like to introduce animation?
No. I mean, my clients, particular clients, they don't like animation. Yeah. So for them, configuration I set to 0 and just show something straight away, or I shouldn't do this at all.
All right. Yeah.
Take a fixed flag and say, okay, animation equals false, don't do anything.
Yeah. So the question was, what if my client doesn't like this animation? What's the solution for that? Do we not just display the animation, or is there any other way? So yeah. So I think they should start from the fundamental approach for the front end. So I actually had a quite similar experience when I worked with a lot of, for example, like government website. So usually government website don't like animation, and then they are really caring a lot about accessibility as well. So I don't think that should be decided by we as a front-end developer or engineer. It needs to be addressed by starting from the a PM, project manager or product manager, and then designer as well, right? But we as a front-end developer or engineer, we should provide some kind of opinions too. So there is no right or wrong answer, I believe. But if I would have to provide it, if any client don't like that, then I will convince them first. But if they really don't like them, then I wouldn't do the animation, and I'll just create this static graphic. But I will say, with that, we can provide some kind of delightful experience. And then if you can track, people get on that specific page a lot of times, and then we can have a data backed up, and we can say, hey, because of this animation, we are getting a lot of traffic and attraction, and why don't we actually try at least A/B testing, right? So do A/B testing, and if you really, really hate that animation, I'll get rid of it, right? But yeah, I would go that way, but there might be some different approach. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
So how UI designer deliver animation to like front-end developer?
Yes, that's a great question actually. So I actually thought a lot about that. And me as a front-end engineer, I really want to design. Like, I want to do Illustrator, I want to do Sketch or whatever, but I can't, right? And the designer, like my wife over there, she is a designer, but she wants to write a code. She wants to do CSS and JavaScript. So I think the best way is the communication. So starting from communication, and then there are like the Adobe the software called it's not InDesign, but you can create movie. What is it called? Effect. Yeah, Adobe Effect. Yeah, and then also a maybe kind of Illustrator as well. Because if we know how to do animation, we can imagine what is possible or not. So by just looking at the static graphic, we kind of can know, what's the best way to do. But in my opinion, if I can get the animation, like if you go to Dribble, there are heaps and heaps of, amazing micro interactions animation, right? And then I read an article about, how they actually create that, and a lot of people use Adobe Effect. So probably Adobe Effect, but yeah, that's something I think I have to look into more and then provide some kind of best practice between designer and then the front-end engineer, or something like that. Yes?
Just real quick to follow on that. I don't know what the status of the project is now, but Airbnb put out a library called Lottie a couple of years ago.
Okay.
That it took After Effects files and generated React Native like components with the animations in there. So
yeah.
If you're developing for React Native, that might be it.
Awesome. Here you go. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Any other questions? Yes.
What about testing? How do you automatically test that the interaction is working? Actually, want to use any library? Does it make things more difficult?
So that's actually a great question. So that is something I left over, and I have to research more on that. So right at this moment, this is React. So we can do TDD with like Jest or some other like testing tool. But with the animation, I haven't found any good way to test, or maybe I have to devote myself more on testing. But when I listen to that question, what would be the best way to test this animation? And first of all, why do we need to test, right? Starting from that, and then secondly, how can we test that? And then what do we want to get the successful measurement from that animation? And I think there's something I want to get into. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. Yes.
So for our company website, we don't have any micro interactions for now. So I just want to know which part is most important and like most advanced things we need to do micro interaction, but for the whole website.
Yes. So the question is, what would be the most important?
If we need to do micro interactions, what's the first thing need to be redefined?
Oh, okay. So the question is, what is the first step we need to do if we want to add micro interactions on our website? So I think it's depending on the website, right? So if it's an e-commerce website, the best approach is to generate the money, right? E-commerce website, you have to make money. But what is the best way to attract people on the website and then provide the really great experience of going through, the product page and then cart page, and at the end, like, payment page. If it's a content blog website, then probably you might have more options to do animation. Just for example, like if it's your own website, you can do whatever you want, right? And you can create a lot of amazing website. If it's a government website, you gotta be very careful, especially with accessibility and especially around colors. So it's really depending on your clients or your websites. And I would say the starting point would be to get the data first. So what is doing your user on your website. Is just visiting your website, or they are trying to do something but something is not working. So probably find the problem first, and then when you solve some kind of problem, then you introduce micro. For example, like a button, right? Nobody clicks on specific button. We have no idea, but nobody clicks on that. But we want to make people to click on the button. Then you can create some kind of nice animation that actually enforces people to click on the button, because when they clicked on the button, they experience really nice web experience. So I would go with that, and then also like depending on the resources as well. Like can your engineers have enough time? Because a lot of companies not really thinking about like micro interactions are important. And this is kind of like a last step that, okay, we have enough time or a little bit of money left, so why don't we do micro interactions? But probably if you're a front-end engineer and designers, UX designers, then probably you should think about providing these micro interactions at the very first step, and how can we improve this your web components and web page with these micro interactions. And I'm pretty sure it will improve overall UX experience as well.
Use SVG?
Sorry?
Would you use SVG for micro interactions too?
Yes, definitely. I would use SVG because it's with the image we can't animate, first of all, like individual elements. And SVG is code and lightweight, and then you can do so many things with SVG, especially with the SVG filter. You can make wave, you can create so many interesting stuff. So definitely I will use SVG. And if you can, I would use shaders as well. So shader is kind of like a little language living inside of the GPU. It's a little bit hard to learn, and myself is actually learning at the moment as well. But shader provides really, really amazing experience as well. And but of course, you have to learn like WebGL or 3.js with the shaders. But yes, definitely SVG. I will use that.
Just in terms of the demo, the logic and the styling is kind of like weave together. How complex it is, separate into separate folder or something like that. So you can pretty much just want to switch this interaction to a different kind of color scheme or different kind of micro interactions like easily. So that list of things that you just plug and play.
Yeah. So how easily we can separate that logic between animation.
Code is pretty much doing styling and the logic on the same thing.
Yes, so we can actually separate because this is a demo. I put everything inside, but with the React, you usually separate files, right? So if it's a button, you're gonna create a new button, and then I would create this as a. So this is actually a function. So you can actually make it as a helper function, and then you can actually separate them in a separate file, and then you can import it, and then you can reuse it. But here's the thing that I didn't reuse this forward animation from this backward animation, even though backward animation is pretty much the same, but just going backward. In GSAP, they provide a function called like a method called like a reverse method. So if you attach reverse, it's gonna go back the animation. However, I didn't do that because, as I mentioned, micro interactions is all about finding the perfect moment and then for perfect timing to create the perfect animation. So you have to spend quite a bit of time to tweaking the duration and delay and find the best way to chain. So that's why I created those two different animation. But definitely, as you can see, I created it as a function, and then you can separate them if you want. So I would say, yeah, that's fairly easy, I guess. Yeah. Right. Thanks so much.